How America's Biggest Convict Escaped from Jail Dark. Dramatic music plays as a shadowy figure is seen walking through a prison corridor. The camera zooms in on a picture of the convict on the wall. In 1971, one of America's most notorious criminals pulled off one of the greatest jailbreaks in history. A man whose name was feared and whispered about in every prison, a man who escaped from one of the most secure prisons in the world. This is the story of how America's biggest convict escaped from jail. Footage of a maximum security prison. His name was John Doe, not his real name, but one that would forever be associated with mystery and fear. John was incarcerated in the infamous Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary, a maximum security prison located on an island off the coast of San Francisco. Known as the Rock, it housed the most dangerous criminals in America. Footage of old prison cells, locks, and heavy gates. John had been convicted of multiple violent crimes, including armed robbery, kidnapping, and murder. With a reputation for being violent and clever, he quickly earned the respect and fear of the other inmates and the prison guards. Dramatic reenactment of John talking with a fellow inmate. But John had a plan so brilliant it would leave authorities stunned and desperate. For months, he had been secretly working on his escape, making careful observations of the prison's routines, its blind spots, and its weaknesses. The camera zooms in on a small, seemingly insignificant detail: a cracked wall, a hidden passage. Using tools he smuggled in through various means, John created a secret tunnel in his cell, leading from behind the walls of his solitary confinement cell all the way to the outer perimeter of the prison. Footage of John digging through the wall at night. Night after night, John chipped away at the concrete, making tiny but crucial progress. By the time the authorities began to suspect something was wrong, it was already too late. Dramatic reenactment of John crawling through the tunnel. On the night of the escape, John crawled through the narrow tunnel, making his way through darkness and narrow passageways. The tunnel led to an old, abandoned sewer line that ran beneath the prison grounds. Footage of the prison gates, the darkened waters surrounding Alcatraz. John Doe made his way across the island, into the cold, dark waters of the San Francisco Bay. He had no plan of where he would go next, but his determination and resourcefulness had carried him this far. For years, he evaded the FBI and law enforcement. Despite extensive manhunts, sightings, and investigations, John Doe's true fate remains unknown, a silhouette of a man walking into the distance. Some say he lived out the rest of his life in hiding, while others believe he perished in the unforgiving waters. But one thing is certain: John Doe's escape remains one of the most legendary jailbreaks in American history. Scene fades out as dramatic music plays. How did John Doe manage to escape from one of the most secure prisons in the world? Was it sheer luck, or was it a brilliant, calculated plan? One thing is for sure: he was never caught, and his story remains an enigma. A quiet, dimly lit office with maps, photographs, and files scattered across a desk. The camera zooms in on a board full of crime scene photos and possible escape routes. After the escape, the authorities were left with only one question: how did John Doe pull off the impossible? The FBI launched one of the most extensive manhunts in U.S. history, but despite their best efforts, they were left with more questions than answers. Archive footage of FBI agents in meetings, investigators searching through documents, and officers scouring the city streets. Every lead, every piece of evidence seemed to lead to a dead end. In fact, the escape was so meticulously planned that even the most experienced investigators were stumped. Dramatic reenactment of an FBI agent looking at a map, pointing at different locations, and talking to other agents. Some believed John had an accomplice on the outside, someone who was able to help him once he made it to freedom. Others theorized that he had inside help from corrupt guards or fellow prisoners. But despite hundreds of theories, no one could confirm any of them. The unsolved mystery. A new investigator steps into the frame, looking at old files, pondering. One of the most chilling theories came from a former convict who had served time with John. He claimed that John had spent years carefully studying the layout of the prison and had even created a detailed map of Alcatraz's hidden routes, escape points, and weaknesses, this map was his ultimate weapon. A shadowy figure sketching a map in a dark room. According to this convict, John didn't just escape. He disappeared. He blended into the landscape, taking advantage of his knowledge of the outside world and the urban chaos. The final word footage of an empty, stormy beach. The camera pans over the OC. Over the ocean waves, hinting at the unknown fate of the convict. Years later, some believed John Doe had lived out his days under a new identity, free from the shackles of the law. Others were certain that the waters of San Francisco Bay had claimed him, burying the mystery forever. But the truth remains elusive, and perhaps it always will. The camera zooms out slowly as the name John Doe fades into the background, one of the greatest escape stories in American history, and one of its greatest unsolved mysteries. What happened to America's biggest convict after his daring escape? We may never know, but the legend of his escape will continue to captivate minds for generations. The mystery lives on. The aftermath and theories on the escape's legacy. A quiet modern-day newsroom. A reporter sits at a desk surrounded by old newspaper clippings, photos of Alcatraz, and more recent stories about prison escapes. While the mystery of John Doe's escape remains unsolved, his audacious jailbreak continues to echo through history. Over the decades, his story has inspired countless books, documentaries, and even films, keeping the legend alive. But what impact did his escape have on the world of law enforcement and the criminal justice system? News footage from different decades, showing stories about prison security, jailbreaks, and the continued obsession with Alcatraz. John Doe's escape was a wake-up call for the prison system. It exposed serious flaws in security and led to a nationwide reevaluation of prison design, inmate protocols, and escape prevention. The legend of the Rock became both a symbol of failure and a catalyst for reform. Footage of modern-day prison buildings with high-tech security measures, surveillance cameras, and prison guards using advanced technology. After the escape, Alcatraz was officially closed in 1963, and authorities began investing heavily in new forms of security to prevent future escapes. But the shadow of John Doe's successful breakout remained, sparking innovations in the way maximum security prisons operate. A group of prison experts sitting around a table discussing new technologies and security measures. Expert, talking to the camera, John's escape, while remarkable, wasn't just about physical cleverness. It was about psychology and resourcefulness. He knew how to manipulate both his surroundings and the people around him, whether it was fellow inmates, guards, or the prison system itself. His ability to stay under the radar for years only added to the allure. Law enforcement officials are still studying his methods, trying to understand how someone could disappear into thin air after making such a bold and risky escape. What happened to him? A foggy morning at San Francisco Bay. The camera pans across the water and the screen fades to an old map showing possible escape routes. Many theories emerged about what truly happened to John Doe after he escaped. Some believed he used the fog and the rocky coastline of San Francisco Bay to his advantage, evading search parties who scoured the waters for weeks. Others speculated that he had planned his escape with military precision, knowing exactly when and where to disappear. A map showing possible destinations he could have reached after escaping Alcatraz. Another theory suggests that John was able to escape with the help of a network of criminals, perhaps even organized crime syndicates, who helped him vanish without a trace. Was he living under a false identity? Did he make a deal with someone in exchange for his silence? These questions remain unanswered. The unsolved mystery lives. The camera pans slowly over old news clippings of John Doe, fading into a final image of Alcatraz's abandoned prison walls. As the years pass, the legend of John Doe's daring escape grows. His fate remains one of the most enduring mysteries in American criminal history. Whether he lived in hiding, was caught, or met a grim end in the unforgiving waters of the Bay, his escape remains a testament to human ingenuity and the lengths some will go to for freedom. A camera zooms in on a solitary candle flickering in the dark. The flame dances. John Doe's story is more than just the tale of one convict's daring escape. It's a story of human resilience, resourcefulness, and the ever-present desire to break free from the chains that bind us. The flame flickers one last time before fading out. The mystery endures.